Hi everyone, today we are going to go over the Chapter 3 study guide. Remote learners, please remember that you are expected to take your test during your scheduled geometry period, as well as make sure you're taking the test on your school Chromebook and you are logging into my Google Meet. All right, so let's start with question number 1. Identify the pair of angles. So we have angle 1 and angle 4. Those are vertical angles. Now let's look at angles 3 and angle 6. These would be alternate interior angles. Angles 4 and angles 6. These would be consecutive. Also known as same side interior. Angles 2 and 7. These would be alternate exterior angles. One and 5. These would be corresponding angles. And finally, 4 and 5. Once again, these would be alternate interior. Next, let's determine if the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So parallel means that the slopes are the same. Perpendicular means that the slopes are opposite reciprocals, and then neither means either or. So let's look at the first one. Our slope here is -5, and my slope for my second line is 3. So that means that this would be neither. They are neither parallel or perpendicular. All right, let's look at B. For B, my slope is 2/3. And for the second equation, it's -3/2. So those are opposite reciprocals. So these two lines are perpendicular. For part C, before I can determine if these lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither, I need to get y by itself. So to get y by itself in my first equation here, I need to divide everything by 2. So divide this by 2, divide this by 2, and divide this by 2. And when I do so, I end up getting y is equal to 2x plus 3. Now I need to solve for y for my second equation. And to get y by itself, this time I have to divide everything by 4. And so I end up getting y is equal to 2x plus 5. So now I can look at my slopes. I have a slope of 2 and a slope of 2. So those have the same slope, meaning that these two lines are parallel. Write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form that has, for the following situation. So remember, slope-intercept form is y is equal to mx plus b, where m is the slope, b is the y-intercept. Well, it tells me exactly what my m value is here. So y is equal to 3/4 x plus, and my b value is here. So since this is a -5, I can get rid of my plus sign. And so I can just write -5 here. All right. Next, we are going to write an equation that goes to the point 3, 8 and has a slope of -2. All right, so once again, y is equal to mx plus b. Right away, it tells me what my slope is, which is -2. And it also tells me what an x and y value is for the equation. So for this equation, I need to be able to solve for b to be able to write everything. So here we go. I'm going to, instead of y, I'm going to plug in 8 is equal to, I know my slope is -2. The x value I see here is 3 plus b. I need to solve for b. So 8 is equal to -2 times a +3 is -6 plus b. I'm going to add 6 to each side. So 14 is equal to b. So my equation then is going to be y is equal to -2x plus 14. For part C, I have the 0.15 on my line, and I know that my new line is parallel to the line y is equal to 3x minus 5. What does it mean when lines are parallel? It means that our slopes are the same. So if I look at my slope for this equation, I see that it's 3, which means my slope for my new equation will also be 3. My 0.15 is going to give me my x and y value. So once again, I'm going to need to solve for my y-intercept, which is b. So y is equal to mx plus b. So instead of y, I'm going to plug in 5 is equal to, my slope is 3. The x value is +1 plus b. All right, so let's simplify this. So 5 is equal to 3 plus b. Subtract 3 from each side, so 2 is equal to b. So my final equation then is y is equal to 3x plus 2. For part D, I'm going to write an equation that goes to the point -6, 2, and is perpendicular to y is equal to -1/3 x minus 4. Perpendicular. The slopes are opposite reciprocals. So if my slope of this equation is -1/3, that means my slope of my new line is going to be +3. All right, so y is equal to mx plus b. I know what my slope is going to be. Here's the x, here's the y. Once again, let's solve for the y-intercept. So I have 2 is equal to 3 times -6 plus b. And when I solve for my b value, I end up getting that 20 is equal to b. So my equation then is y is equal to 3x plus 20. Based on the following equation, determine whether each line will be vertical, which would be going this way, up and down, horizontal, which is going to be left and right, or oblique. Oblique just means slanted, so a normal line that we're used to. So for part A, what type of line would we have here if we graphed it? It would be oblique. How about for part B, x is equal to 4? Well, x equals are always vertical lines, no matter what the number is. X equals is always vertical, and y equals are always horizontal lines. For number 5, we want to determine if the lines through the given points are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So we need to figure out what the slopes are of each line. Let's remember our slope formula. Our slope formula is rise over run, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now I'm not going to show all the work, but I'm going to just kind of tell you what the slope is. Just remember you plug the coordinates into that equation. So for part A here, we get the slope is equal to 17. And for the second equation, when I plug this into my slope formula, I end up getting negative 1 over 17. So these two slopes are opposite reciprocals, which means they are perpendicular. For part B, I want to find the slopes again of each line. So for line 1, when I plug these coordinates into my slope formula, I end up getting that m is equal to 8 over negative 4, which simplifies to negative 2. And when I plug my slope or these coordinates into the slope formula for line 2, I end up getting that m is equal to negative 6 divided by 3, which simplifies to negative 2. So I have a slope of negative 2, a slope of negative 2. Those are the same. So these lines then are parallel. Determine the slope of the line and then write an equation for the line in slope-intercept form. All right, slope is rise over run. So if I go from this point to this point here, I'm going down 1, so that is negative 1, and over 1, 2, which means my slope then is equal to negative 1 divided by 2, negative 1/2. Now to write my equation, remember this is y is equal to mx plus b. So y is equal to negative 1/2 x plus, I gotta figure out what b is. B is the y-intercept, so where does this line cross the y-axis? And it crosses it at 2, so b is 2. Graph the following equations. So our first equation is y is equal to 3x minus 2. So I'm always going to start with my y-intercept, which is negative 2. So negative 2 would be plotted here for my y-intercept. And then I want to look at my slope. So my slope is 3, which means I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3 over 1. Plot my point there. Go up 3, 1, 2, 3 over 1. Plot my point there and connect the dots. For my next equation, I have 3x plus 2y is equal to 4. Once again, I can't plot this until it's in slope-intercept form. So the first thing I want to do is subtract 3x from each side, which would give me 2y is equal to negative 3x plus 4. And then finally, divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. So y is equal to negative 3 over 2x plus 2. So looking at my equation, my y-intercept is 2. So I'm going to plot 2 on my y-axis. My slope here is negative 3 divided by 2, which means I'm going to go down 3. 1, 2, 3 over 2, 1, 2, plot my point here. And let's do that again. Go down 3, 1, 2, 3 over 2, 1, 2. Connect the dots. For my last equation, I have y is equal to 5. So let's remember that y equals is a horizontal line. And this is actually going to go off the page a little bit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would be somewhere up here. Horizontal line. And I'm done. For question number 8, the equation of line M is y is equal to negative 5 divided by 6x plus 9. For line N to be parallel to line M, the slope would have to be, well, parallel lines have the same slope. So if our slope here is negative 5 divided by 6, our slope will also be negative 5 divided by 6. And for line P to be perpendicular to line M, it would have to be opposite reciprocals. Since the slope of M is negative, my slope for line P would need to be positive, and then reciprocal just means I flip my fraction around, so the slope would be 6 divided by 5. For question 9, we're going to find the value of x that would make the lines parallel. So if I look at these two angles, the angle here and the angle here, those are consecutive angles or same side interior angles. They're not the same. They are supplementary, which means they add up to 180. So 108 plus 4x minus 12 is equal to 180 degrees. Let's combine our like terms. So 108 minus 12 is going to equal 96 plus 4x is equal to 180. Subtract 96 from each side. I get 4x is equal to 84. Divide by 4. X then is equal to 21. For my second problem, I have two angle pairs here. These would be corresponding angles, which means they are congruent. So I'm just going to set these two equal to each other. So 72 is equal to 3x plus 18. Subtract 18 from each side. 54 is equal to 3x divided by 3. 18 is equal to x. 10, 11, and 12 are actually repeat problems, so we can practice again. So tell whether the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So to be able to tell this, we need to look at the slope, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'll call this x1, y1, x2, y2. So if I plug this into my slope formula, I end up getting 7 minus 9 divided by 1 minus a negative 3. This will simplify to negative 2 divided by 4, which is truly negative 1/2. And if I look at line 2, I'll call this guy x1, y1, the second coordinate x2, y2. So once again, I want to plug it in my slope formula. And so this will give me 3 minus 5 divided by 0 minus 1. So this would be negative 2 divided by negative 1, which would equal positive 2. So I have negative 1/2 and a positive 2. So these lines then would be perpendicular. They are opposite reciprocals. For question number 11, write an equation of a line that goes through point P and is parallel to the line given. So if it's parallel, I know that they're going to have the same slope. So my slope of my new line will be 3, and I get x and y from this coordinate. So I need to solve for my y-intercept. So y is equal to mx plus b. Let's plug in everything we know. Well, y is really equal to 8. M is equal to 3. X is equal to negative 4 plus b. I need to solve for b. So 8 is equal to negative 12 plus b. Add 12 to each side. So 20 is equal to b. So my equation then would be y is equal to 3x plus 20. Write an equation of a line that goes through point P and is perpendicular to the line with the given equation. So once again, point P, this is going to give me my x and y. I need to figure out what my slope is. Well, if my slope is 1/2 in this equation, and I know my new line is going to be perpendicular, we are going to have opposite reciprocals. So that means that my new slope is going to be -2. So let's plug in everything we know. So y is equal to mx plus b. Y is -3 is equal to m, which is -2, times my x value, which is 1, plus b. So -3 is equal to -2 plus b. Add 2 to each side. -1 is equal to b. So my equation then is y is equal to -2x minus 1. Tell whether the line is vertical or horizontal. So remember, x equals is always going to be vertical, and y equals is always going to be horizontal. All right, number 14. Write an equation of a line that would fit this model. So we want to write the equation. What is the meaning of the slope, and what is the meaning of the y-intercept? So first here, I see that my y-intercept is going to be 212 because that's where my line crosses the y-axis. So that's my b value. Next, I need to figure out what my slope is. So let's take these 2 points here and find my slope. All right, so I go up 2, which if I look on the side here, going from 216 to 218, that is 2. And my run, I go over 2 spots. And if I look here, 2 spots actually only equals 1. I go from 1999 to 1992 in 2 spots. So my slope then is equal to 2 over 1, which is equal to 2. So y is equal to mx plus b. Y is equal to my slope, which I know is 2x, plus my b value is 212. What's the meaning of the slope? Well, if we look at our graph, the title here is People with Health Insurance. If I look at the bottom, the x-axis, that tells me years, and then the y-axis here tells me number of people in millions. So the slope then would be the rise in people per year who have health insurance. So rise in people per year who have health insurance. I'm going to abbreviate that. What is the meaning of the y-intercept? Well, the y-intercept is 212, and if I look down, that was in 1989. So number of million people with insurance in the year 1989. All right, for number 15, in the diagram, line P is perpendicular to line M. We want to find the value of x. So perpendicular means that they create a 90-degree angle, which means this is also a 90-degree angle. So if I add up these two angles, they are going to be complementary, which means add up to 90 degrees. So 4x plus 5 plus x is equal to 90. I'm going to combine my like terms. So 4x plus 1x is 5x plus 5 is equal to 90. Subtract 5. 5x is equal to 85. Divide by 5. X then is equal to 17. For the last question on the study guide, find the distance from the point to the line. So I want to figure out what is the distance from this point here, A, to some point on the line. So step 1. I need to find the slope of line C. So find slope of line C. All right, and if I look at line C and I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, so that's a -4, and I go over 1, 2. So my slope then is -4 divided by 2, which is equal to -2. To find the shortest distance from point A to line C, I need to draw a line that is perpendicular to line C. So step 2 would be to find my new slope. So if my slope of the first line was -2, my new slope then would have to be positive, and I'm going to flip my fraction around to find the reciprocal. So it'd be positive 1/2. All right, so if I start at A, means I'm going to go up 1 over 2, plot my point here, up 1 over 2, and my new line would hit the graph at this point, and I'm going to call this point B. So I now want to find the distance between point A and point B. So step 3 is to find the distance of point A to point B. So point A is the coordinate -2, +1. Point B is the coordinate 2, 3. So I'm going to use the distance formula, which the distance formula is equal to the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So I'm just going to plug in my coordinates for A and B into the equation. So when I do so, I'll call this x1, y1, x2, y2. So this is going to give me, so x2 is 2 minus x1, which is a -2, squared, plus 3 minus 1, and I'm going to square that. Let's simplify here. So 2 minus a -2 is really 2 plus 2. So this becomes 4 squared plus 3 minus 1 is 2 squared. And I can simplify that. So 4 squared is 16 plus 2 squared, which is 4. And this is the square root of 20. Now when I plug in the square root of 20 in my calculator, I get approximately 4.5.